really good friends from high school, actually. The other person, Gabe, who's also in that picture. Do you mind if I tell the story? Okay, so one of the funny things about this is they're really good friends. Before they were good friends in high school, and they would come in from poker, in the basement or wherever, and they had this beloved math teacher. These two guys both have PhDs in math, Michael's. Veered off into Chinese, but they loved this math teacher, and so somehow or other, when they were playing poker, they decided that whoever lost would have to stand up anytime Mr. Riyadi, the teacher, said something. What was it? I can't remember what it was. Origin. Anytime he said origin. And so Michael lost the day. And so the next day in class, every time Mr. Riyadi said origin, which was 4 times, Michael had to stand up and sing. What was it? Every time. I thought Baxter might tell that, but since he wasn't, I thought I'd tell him. Anyway, they were great friends. So.
Hey, yeah, so that story came out at Michael's house right after he passed away. Just remembering so many things. It's so funny, everyone that's spoken today has touched on the same things that stand out to me so much about Michael. So I'm just going to share my experience and forget that it probably overlaps with everyone else's. Okay, so I've been thinking about what to say here, since it happened, and since I knew that this memorial was going to happen, and even today I'm standing here changing what I'm supposed to be saying because I really don't know what to say to remember Michael. And several months ago, I woke up in the middle of the night and was just thinking about Michael and wanted to prepare some notes for the speech, and got out this little book that I had been carrying around with me that I never used, that he got me in China one of the first times he went when he was in college. And had just kind of, every time I'd moved, like 7 times, just brought it with me. It's just like a little, like, I'm sure it cost 12 cents, notebook that I still have, and now I'm sure I'll keep it forever. And anyway, leaving this to the last minute and staying at home this week, was kind of just thinking back on high school. My 2 little siblings, who are both half Chinese, and actually who had Michael as, like, he actually worked in their daycare in Chinatown for like a couple of days when they were in preschool, and they were like, "Oh, we saw your friend Michael Cohen at this daycare." And I was like, I had no idea he was doing that. But I guess the Chinese community in Boston is a small world. But anyway, so procrastinating on writing things was a pastime for me and Michael in high school. And so senior year, Michael and I both got into college early. And so we got to start our senior spring a few months before everyone else. And so we were in Miss Cohen, who's here today, her English class. And I just remember I have she might not enjoy hearing this, but I remember 4 separate essays in her class where every single night, the night before, Michael and I would talk at 8 o'clock and be like, "Oh, have you started yet?" And who are you talking to? Of course I haven't started. Max, you know me better than this by now. And then the 2 of us would just both talk and pretend that we were gonna go start our essays, and then we'd just be on the phone for hours, and then finally at 11 or 12, we'd hang up and he'd say, "Okay, fine, I'm gonna go write it down." And then the next morning he'd show up dreary-eyed and just be like, "How late were you up last night?" And I'd be like, "I didn't actually write the essay. I'm gonna ask for an extension." and then Michael would be like, "Oh, I was up until 4 a.m. I should have done that." So the last time I saw Michael was at his house, and fittingly I ate a burrito, and then we watched Curb Your Enthusiasm together. And when I found out about his death, I was home alone, and Sarah and the family called me, and I just sat on my couch crying, and I called my family and told people that were close to me that knew him. And then I hadn't eaten dinner because it was around dinner time when I found out. And then at around, like nearly 11 o'clock, I walked outside to find some dinner. And Michael, I live in DC now, and Michael had come to DC about a year before to visit me, but I lived in a different part of town. And I was just walking around my neighborhood looking at all the different delicious food places and thinking, oh, Michael would have loved this pizza or would have loved this ice cream, and just thinking about, how I missed out on, how he had missed out on, or how much I would have loved to go try all those different things with him. So it's funny how Sarah and everyone has been talking about about the 5-hour chats and how Michael would talk forever, and I'm realizing now, talking here, that this is not a trait of mine that I'm going to get rid of anytime soon. But the two of us fit together very well for that reason. And every time he came back we kept in touch a lot after he went to college, and we lived in different places. Every time he'd come back, I feel like the routine would be he'd come to my mom's house, and then I'd offer him, we'd somehow always have San Pellegrino, like Aranciata, or whatever the soda flavors they have are, and I'm pretty sure that the only people that ever drank them were my Commonwealth friends. But I'd always go in this cupboard where we had them and offer them to Michael, and he'd be like, yes! Or have some reaction that I'm failing at replicating. And then we'd have that, and then within 5 minutes, we decided that we were going to go to Anna's to get burritos, because obviously we had to go get burritos. And then just watching Michael devour an Anna's burrito or just anything is just something I'll never forget. And I still have no idea how he enjoyed them as much as they are. I love Anna's, but I really can't vouch for them to that degree. Our routine was we'd go to Anna's, and then inevitably we'd go back to my house or his house and wander around and just walk for hours on end around the neighborhood in circles, and come back to the house and then be like, okay, we'll go again, and then make another one. And one night I remember we were walking around in Brookline, in the suburban area where my mom lives, and this cop pulled us over at 2:30 in the morning, and he was like, what are you guys doing? And we were like, oh, we're just walking around and talking. What else? We need some explanation for this. And then he was like, well, where do you live? And I was like, I live on Fisher Road. And then Fisher Road doesn't exist. I actually live on Fisher Ave. And I just, I guess, I don't know. This was just, anyway, so I definitely missed the 5-hour talks with Michael. But I went to grad school at Yale, and while I was in grad school, Michael came to visit me 3 times. The first time he came was during orientation, and we went on this hike, and Michael, whose only connection to Yale at that point was that he was my friend, and had no other reason to be at orientation, just completely connected everyone and made all these friends on this orientation hike. And he met this big group of Chinese students and just immediately started talking to them and talked to them for the entire hike. And I have still to this day, I don't even remember what I was doing that day, except for being oh, why is Michael talking to these people? Doesn't he know us to keep me company? And then, he organized getting pizza with them later. And then 2 years later, when he visited me the second time, I had to go to Rutgers the next day, because I had to do that every week at that point in time. And so I told him, I'm not going to be here. I could go see my advisor in Rutgers, and you're alone today. You should go to this place, Nico's Market, to get a caprese sandwich for lunch, because it's the best sandwich. And at this point, I lived right near there, and I had this sandwich 4 times a week. And so then when I came back at 8 p.m., Michael was just sitting on the couch, completely sedated and just looking and basically just still just totally immersed in this sandwich. And just looked at me oh my God, that sandwich was the greatest sandwich. And my impression of it was just that he had done nothing all day except for go get the sandwich and then come back and go on Facebook on his computer or something, or probably just sit there with like the sandwich wrapper on his lap. But in fact, I found out later that he had actually gone out and met some of his friends that he had met on that hike 2 years before for coffee at some point that day. And then the third time I picked him up, so the third time he visited me was about a year and a half, I guess, yeah, a year and a half ago, and I was picking him up with another friend, and I told him about the Nika's Market sandwich, and I was like, I bet there's no way like we get out of the driveway before Michael mentions this. And then, yeah, sure enough, he mentioned it almost immediately, and I went back with him the next day to get another one. So anyway, what I love about Michael is, of course, not his love of food. What I loved about Michael was his sincerity, his genuine interest in everything around him. He was an incredible listener, and and I mean, one thing is like, he just, in all these examples, and there's another one where we went to this dinner party at Yale, and again, it was like someone I didn't even know very well, and then he told me later that he met this person in Beijing in another dinner party we've never met, and was like, oh yeah, I saw you at that dinner party at Yale, and she was like, what? Like, how does that? And so I think it's just that Michael was just, David said he just made him feel so safe. And the way I interpreted that is, very similar, but I just thought Michael was, so genuine and just didn't require any explanation for being interested in whoever was around him or whatever was around him. And he was just so present in the moment and rapt and interested just for the sake of being interested. He didn't need to know why he was going to see someone the next time or where the relationship was going to go. He was just focused on whatever was in front of him, and that was enough. And I'm really failing at following this, but Michael was one of my closest friends from the moment I met him, and I've had many friendships in my life that have come and gone for various reasons, but Michael was one of the most loyal friends I've ever had. And if he wrote me on Facebook from Beijing and I forgot to respond for a month, it didn't matter at all. He didn't care. He was just as interested in hearing about every last detail of my life after. And that loyalty and his love for just everything in his life is what I'll miss the most about him.
So the next person who's going to speak is Leon Wall. Who was one of the two people in that picture that Michael had posted about getting married in October. So a friend from age 5, 4, something like that. Something like that. Anyway, I remember the time they almost blew up our kitchen.
And I was surprised. When I was trying to figure out what to say today, I did something that I think a lot of us did, what any good millennial would probably do, and I went on Facebook to see what everyone wrote on Michael's page after he died. And the messages and memories weren't surprising at all. Post after post, everyone proclaimed their love for Michael. They were crying over losing their best friend, sharing memories of the great times they'd had together. But there was something that was surprising to me, which was all of the names. As I scrolled, there were all these total strangers who loved Michael just as much as I did. Michael and I had been friends for over 20 years, and I was shocked. How could there be so many other people, most of whom he never told me about, from all over the world, who felt so incredibly close to him? It was overwhelming. That was the thing about Michael. He had a unique ability to connect with people everywhere he went. He loved to travel and explore and meet new people. And the people he met came from all walks of life. He had a way of really listening and hearing what you had to say and being genuinely interested in learning and understanding. It just drew people to him. He maintained friendships from elementary and middle school in Newton, where I met him, from high school at Commonwealth, from Pomona, from living in the US and in China, and he didn't just connect with people, he stayed connected. Michael had a special knack for truly staying in touch. While living in wildly different places and situations, across the country or across the world, he consistently kept in contact, regularly checking in, and it was always as we could just pick up immediately where we left off. By most measures, it would look to outsiders like Michael and I had very little in common as adults. We worked in different fields, lived in different places, enjoyed different hobbies, but we shared the history of everything that had ever happened to us, everything we had done together, all the misadventures we had had. One of the things about having lifelong friends, people you can't remember not knowing, is that you imagine they will always be in your life. Michael and I worked together for all of those years of play dates and birthday parties, our bar and bat mitzvahs, learning to drive, high school and college graduations, and most recently my wedding. And so, in some ways, the loss is so profound, not only to lose a friend, but to lose that sureness of someone who was always there and was always supposed to be there. There have been countless times that I've wanted to call or text Michael since February, things I wanted to ask him, little bits of knowledge that I knew he would have, advice I really needed. But there are two things that I learned from him over all those years we spent as friends that I try to work on and try to remember all the time. The first is to stay connected with people who matter to me. Our world is an increasingly busy place and it's all too easy to get lost in the day-to-day, but Michael never forgot to check in on his family and friends. He would actually pick up the phone and call. None of my other friends would do that. He would actually pick up the phone and call rather than just sending a text. He knew that those little connections mattered. He showed me that it was possible to maintain a friendship across time and space, and I don't take that for granted. The other thing I learned from Michael is to always eat a balanced diet. During the years he lived in China, almost every visit he had coming home revolved around food. Michael carefully planned every meal while he was back in the States, going back to all his favorite restaurants and ordering things he couldn't get in Beijing. He was sure to sample Indian, Mexican, Italian, deli, diner, Japanese, and more on every visit home. So together, we ate burritos and pad thai and breakfast for dinner and bagels with schmear and not infrequently pasta. Michael was a foodie, but I think beyond that, he knew if you want to catch up with someone, if you want to really hear what's on your mind, if you want to have those 5-hour talks, you should sit down for a meal with them. I think of Michael every day. I imagine I'll miss him for the rest of my life. He was one of those few friends I was sure would always be there. Without him here, I'm going to do my best to call my friends, to check up on my family, and to share meals with the people I love as often as I can.
So you probably can tell one thing we're not good at is time management. And I'm sorry. This is taking a long time. Anyway, so maybe people will talk fast. Anyway, Laura. So the next person is someone I think who's known Michael maybe as long as I is, but then also who lived across the street from us in Brookline and spent a lot of time with Michael. And now she spends some time with us, which we really love.
I'm going to preface this by saying that Elion and I did not meet each other before, and there's a lot of overlap, so bear with me. I've also lost my voice a little, so this might be fun. Michael and I had known each other for about as long as I can remember. Our friendship went through the typical evolutions of lifelong relationships, adjusting when my family moved away from Newton, and shifting later when Michael attended college in California and then lived in China. Despite the challenges of time and geography, we always found our way back to each other. Michael was consistently good about getting in touch when he was on the East Coast, and we'd just pick up wherever we left off, regardless of how much time it had been since we'd last seen each other. Michael was gifted in so many ways. His passion for China and travel more generally was outstanding. I always found his solo traveling prowess to be extraordinarily brave and enviable. The thing I admired most about Michael, though, was his warmth, which he radiated continually with his infectious smile. Michael had an impressive knack for making everyone he spoke with feel special. He was an attentive, engaged, and thoughtful listener, and always gave you his complete and undivided attention. If you were lucky enough to be in Michael's circle, Michael made his affection for you known. He cared so deeply and openly for his family and friends in a way that I can only hope to envy. When the Cohens moved to Brooklyn, I was thrilled to discover that their new home was across the street and down a few blocks from my apartment. I gushed to anyone who would listen about how much I loved having Michael so close by. Michael quickly became intrinsic to the fabric of my daily life. At the time, both Michael and I were job searching, and we found ourselves in the habit of texting each other when we were bored. And we'd just meet up shortly thereafter. We'd chat over warming beverages or cheap Thai food and commiserate and brainstorm and talk about anything under the sun. When I eventually took a job in which I worked remotely from home, Michael became my de facto colleague and kept me sane when I was otherwise cooped up in an empty apartment. His constant, reliable presence was the greatest gift. Last fall, Michael and I were sitting around my dining room table with our childhood friends Eliana and Max, and Eliana's husband Ben, commenting on just how special it was to have a group of friends you've known since elementary school. Michael's absence from that group is profoundly felt, and while the sadness of his loss is excruciating, I am filled with the sense of overwhelming joy that I have the privilege of calling Michael one of my oldest and dearest friends.
I'd like to ask Nikki Minaj to come up next.
I thought we had seen enough pictures of Tasha, so I just put up a picture of mine.
Hi everyone, my name is Tasha. I've known Michael since we were 14 years old, both freshmen at the Commonwealth School in Boston. And since the first time I met him, he always had that same great smile that you can see in all of these photos. And it just really strikes me because some people, when they smile, it's kind of careful, it's cautious, it's like they're waiting for your reaction before they fully commit. And that wasn't Michael. Michael had this great, toothy, unbridled grin. And when he smiled, his whole face smiled. He was kind and genuine in a way that's really, really rare. And Commonwealth was hard, harder than college, Michael and I both thought at times. But Michael always found ways to make it tolerable and even fun. He did an impression of our geometry teacher, Mr. Riaki, that made all of us fall over laughing. And he did that for us for years. We would beg him to do it again and again. He'd host pool parties at the Cohen's house and DJ new music for us that he'd found. One really special time at Commonwealth was always Free Cone Day. It came every year. And Michael and I loved their cinnamon bun ice cream. So we would always be talking back and forth like, oh, when do you have a free period? And whenever we had a free period, we would go and stand in a line that went around the block to wait for this free cinnamon bun ice cream. And then if we had enough time for our next class, we'd stand in the line again. Commonwealth was really hard, but I look back on it fondly, and Michael's one of the big reasons for that. Later on, Michael and I were so excited to get into the same college. We absolutely loved Pomona and we loved Los Angeles. We took pictures of sunsets and we'd send them to our friends and family back home to make them jealous. As you saw, we would dress up in silly wigs and costumes and go to parties. He would make me mix CDs with our favorite music, and I still listen to those. We told and retold stories about Commonwealth until they became more like myths. Pomona could be hard too, though, and whatever I was going through at that time, whenever I was upset or afraid, Michael was there for me. And he listened to me in a way that didn't ask judgment and didn't ask anything in return. He just listened. When I found out about Michael, I work in a therapy clinic as a therapist, and I found out in St. Louis, and it felt like a light had gone off across the continent. And it just broke my heart to try and understand how Michael, who could smile like that, who could brighten up a room just by walking in, who saw the best side of everyone, how he could have died. And I had to try and figure out, how do you say goodbye to someone like Michael who you thought would continue to be in your life for years to come? The only thing that makes it any easier is understanding the lasting and tremendous influence Michael had on everyone he met throughout his life. And I could see that just by listening to everyone who's spoken before me. I consider it a gift to have had the opportunity to know Michael. And I'm so grateful for the time that he was in my life, no matter how brief. He'll always be a part of me and a part of everyone who's here. I'd like to end with lyrics from the song Lost by Amanda Palmer, who's one of the artists whose music Michael and I shared over the years. And this part goes, "No one's ever lost forever. When they die, they go away. But they will visit you occasionally. Do not be afraid. No one's ever lost forever. They are caught inside your heart. If you garden them and water them, they make you what you are."
Next person is Jamie, who's a friend of Michael from China. We don't have a picture of Jamie either.
Michael and I share a mashup. It's the mashup that Carol talked about earlier, that combination of Chinese and Jewish culture that was so much a part of our Beijing life together. Today I'd like to share 3 words from that mashup, 3 words from the Jewish and Chinese cultures that are inherent to Michael. The first word is mensch, or in Chinese you can simply say hao ren, which literally means good person. Michael was a core member of the Beijing Jewish community. As expats living thousands of miles from home, from our families, the Jewish community became our dajia team, our big family. Michael was such a well-loved member of that community. And given that we're so spread out across the world, I have reflections from members of that big family who could not be here. From Ben Bark, Michael was a true mensch and one of the nicest guys in our community. He would welcome old friends and new visitors with a big smile and a genuine interest. It didn't matter who they were, old, young, Chinese, American, Israeli. You could count on Michael to make them feel warm and welcome. From Barack Cohen, I remember Michael and I bonding over our shared initials. Hey MC, what's up MC? We were MC1 and MC2, but we never determined who was number 1 and who was number 2. From Sydney Hess, Michael loved bagel brunch and would always lend a hand to clean up. His only unspoken caveat was that we saved him a little lox in the fridge. When he arrived, he'd greet me with a knowing smile and a lift of the eyebrow to confirm, "You've got my locks." From Amitai Carney, our best times together involved going out for karaoke or going dancing. We used to go dancing and drink Chinese beer. Every single time Michael would go and start dancing with a girl, I would think, wow, this guy has no fear. I'll remember Michael as an awesome guy who never judged and allowed me to be who I am with a big smile. And as Amitai quoted, and as Michael would say, sweet. The second word is jia, or family. Being here with Michael's family, I see clearly how Michael became the person to be loved in Beijing. I can see clearly how much Michael cared about his family, how much he made sure to show that care, even when living abroad. I know well how difficult that would be. I also see clearly how the family is continually channeling Michael's warmth, kindness, and care for others. Whether it's friends and family sharing like we are today, the articles about him that people around the globe who will never know Michael are reading, or the recipients of the Moshe House Award that's now named after him. Michael's story is continually bettering the lives of others thanks to his family. And Michael's story is not just bettering lives, but saving lives. I want to acknowledge the courage of Michael's family to open up about suicide and the dangers of keeping it hidden. That courage to tell Michael's story and raise awareness is an act of tikkun olam, repairing the world. I declare that I and each one of us here performs this act of tikkun olam as much as we can. The third and final word is Linquin, neshama in Hebrew, soul or spirit in English. Standing here, Michael is definitely here. His spirit is with us. And I'd like to conclude by telling you how I'm taking Michael's spirit with me. Michael's spirit is with me when I'm with the people I love. I channel Michael's big smile and hug to ensure those people know how much they mean to me. Michael's spirit is with me when I feel broken. I bring Michael's comforting ways to remind me that wholeness means embracing the inevitable brokenness of life. Michael's spirit is with me when I try new foods. From our adventures in Beijing to Kaifeng to Flushing, Queens, I love Michael's desire to discover new flavors. Michael's spirit is with me when I am crossing cultures. I hope to build bridges the way that Michael did. Michael's spirit is with me when I am with someone who is depressed. I will channel Michael's warmth to shine a light and work to destigmatize mental illness in our society. Michael's spirit is with me when I'm hosting a Jewish gathering. I know how much he appreciated our heritage and coming together. Lastly, I will take Michael's spirit with me when I travel. I believe Michael's kindness, curiosity, and warmth towards any person he met came from B'Tselem Elohim. Michael saw the spark of the divine in each of us. Thank you, Michael. Your spirit has been with me since we met. It is with me today and will always accompany me along the journey.
Okay, we're going to go slightly out of order, and Steve's going to speak now. So, Herb, can you please start Steve's PowerPoint?
So I want to thank you all for attending, and I want to thank everybody who's spoken already. I was going to be the last speaker, but anyway, thank everybody. Love that picture, Michael. So the past 9 months have been awful for us. I think any death of a young person is tragic, but when someone takes their own life, it adds another element that's we asked, why did it happen? Could it have been prevented? How could a temporary lapse have such permanent consequences? If we'd only known what he was really thinking, we struggle with these thoughts all the time, and we miss him all the time. But I do now, I want to put some of those thoughts aside and focus on the 28 years that we had with him and not the final 2 months when he was depressed. Because that 99% of his life was magical for us. It was the greatest. Warmth, fun, humor, new worlds that he discovered and opened up to us. And it starts with little things like CDs. Trust me, it does. Here we go. I get it. So 10 years ago, Michael started making a CD for Father's Day and for my birthday, because we both love music. And I was a little skeptical. I remember getting the first one because Michael's taste and my taste in music were kind of different. He liked hip hop and rap and pop, a lot more old school than that. But what I realized quickly, which is the theme that I said here, is that he wasn't giving me music that he liked and hoping that I would like it. So he had this tremendous knowledge of music, knew everything about it. And what he was doing was introducing me to music that he knew that I would like, that he thought I would never find on my own. And actually he was right. So once I started listening, I realized this is great, and who are these people? And some of my favorite music comes from Michael, like the 2 songs that were on the slideshow at the beginning. It makes me sad because I'm sure there's a lot of music out there that I would love that I'll never know about because Michael will never find it for me. CDs are a small thing, but they say something bigger about Michael. Michael cared so much about what mattered to you. I think so many people are caught up in what's good for them, but Michael was different. He was just very giving. And I think that came naturally for him because he was, at a fundamental level, so incredibly nice. Like, I really think there's nobody nicer than Michael. And I think that's an underrated virtue, but should be pretty high on the list of what matters. Michael cared about people in this very pure way. People have said he liked them, he accepted them, he made them feel good, he let them be themselves around him. He was a great listener, he didn't judge. I have a few messages. We received hundreds of messages after he died, and that theme came up again and again. There's one from his friend Matt Lazar. Behind it, the slides here. Yeah. Like that at this. So Matt, again, I have no idea what they're eating either. So Michael was my best friend during our time together in Beijing, and we had some terrific times. We were also there for each other during challenging moments, whether job trials in Beijing or girlfriend issues. Michael was a world-class listener. Honestly, he's one of the sweetest, nicest individuals I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And I want to offer up another word I always associated with Michael. The word's guileless. And he says, it's as high as I can praise another human being. Michael was never party to talking behind anyone's back in a community where that was all too common. He never had ulterior motives or was out to use anyone. What you saw was always what you got with Michael. And what you saw, if you were lucky enough to be his friend, was a truly delightful, generous, easygoing, fun-loving human. I just love getting those emails because it makes me realize how many people realize how special Michael was. We got one the other day, a similar kind of thing, from the chaplain of Dartmouth, who was the Hillel rabbi at Claremont Colleges when Michael was there. And Michael was very involved in Hillel, and he was the head Jewish mentor, that's the role that helps Jewish freshmen and sophomores sort of acclimate to college life. So the rabbi wrote, I have a picture near my desk of several Claremont Hillel students who I particularly treasured. Michael is among those beautiful faces. I would not need a picture to remember, but I look at it daily and I hear his laugh and recall the sweetness of spirit he brought to everyone. Please know that I am another one of the large circle of people who Michael touched with his life. There are a lot of people, and for us it was like a daily thing. And I used this example before, just birthday cards. Like, what's the big deal with birthday cards? Well, the big deal is that I'm always going to the store the night before to find one, and Carol is kind of too. But Michael was different than that. Like, whether he was in China or he was in Beijing, the card would come ahead of your birthday. There'd be a note in it. It was a beautiful note. It was loving, he handled it well in advance. He made time for these little things, and he thought ahead. It was the same with friends, too. So he and some friends went to South Carolina to see the eclipse last year. And Carol and I went separately to stay with friends. I can't remember, it was here somewhere. And he can attest to the fact that maybe we brought him a bottle of wine, I can't remember. But Michael made a playlist for the eclipse. Hymns. Isn't that great? I love that. Here comes the sun, lights by the light. It's really cute, really generous, and he took the time to make something special for other people. He just bring wine like us. Did we even bring wine? There's always a lot of fun when Michael's around. People talked about this before, he's very funny. A lot of silliness, but also kind of some dry humor too. And I was just thinking back, I did a ton of different things, but one of them I was thinking about was, I remember a time in high school when he was getting stressed out about his paper. Probably Max was asleep by then, but Michael was getting stressed out about it. And he was sighing. He said, "Can you come help me take a look at this?" He was sighing. And finally he said, "Michael, you really need to stop sighing, or I'm going to have to leave." And he says, "So that would be sayonara?" That's like classic Michael humor. And then there was another time I was thinking about the other day when we were on this, he was in middle school, I think we were in Hawaii, and we took a helicopter from it, actually, a picture of that. It was fun, Michael. There we are. And so the kids kept asking questions. We were in the back row, and the pilot was completely ignoring us. Because there was a honeymoon couple up front who he was much more interested in. I think he maybe thought to get a tip from them. So it was really, really annoying, and actually I think everyone picked it up. So finally we flew over this rainforest, and the pilot says, "That's the wettest place on Earth." And Michael doesn't get annoyed at anybody, said, "You mean wetter than the ocean?" I always love to ask. So some of the fun Michael brought is expressed in pictures. I like this one. He put it on our family WhatsApp. It's a very millennial and then Halloween was always great. So some of you will remember Manny Ramirez, when Manny would do stupid things, people would say it was just Manny being Manny. So this is just Michael being Manny, if you look at this side. And then, sorry for the 100th time. We just love that picture. And there are a few other pictures that sort of capture his playfulness, just funny things. I don't know, silly stuff. I don't know what that was. Gangnam Style. Thank you. That's really good. And then this is his friend Evan, who was sort of like the Tokyo version of Michael when he was to China. And I think I actually asked him about it. He said they passed some Super Mario theme store and they went on these stupid hats. There were a lot of family pictures too that were fun. And they usually started like this, and then they turned into this. And there's like a lot of them. I love those pictures. Tons of them. There's a pattern there, you can see. A lot of silly fun. But this was the scene at every wedding. Carol talked about this too. That they danced wildly, Michael in particular, I'd say. And they had their arms around each other, and they had the time of their lives. They just loved their special connection. It was, and still is, incredibly special. Michael had many talents too. He was great at math. He was a great writer. He was an excellent skier, which is something we did a lot together. He's a terrific swimmer. He knew everything about music. There was obviously China, which was such a big deal for him. And people talk about how he's fluent. He also did something else. He was sort of, because he was there, he learned it was like sort of the nuances of living and working with a Chinese student, which was interesting. We had a Chinese exchange student and a lot of nuances. But Michael was got really comfortable with that. In his second job, where he was the only English speaker, he led this rebranding effort to make the company more attractive to au pairs. They brought au pairs and interns in from the West to China. And this is a brochure that he made as part of that rebranding. Just like get out and experience China. Okay. And then this is the inside cover. It's a lovely piece of writing, but it talks about his connection to China. Let's read the first part of it. The world's oldest, it says, why China? The world's oldest civilization with 3 decades of parallel economic growth and population exceeding 1.3 billion. China is a place unlike any other. Traditional organic homes sit in the shadows of 50-story skyscrapers. Street vendors sell steamed bread buns next to KFC, millionaire Lamborghinis, race armies of well-worn bicycles on the street. Quite the crowds of Beijing, along from Jing Road, and enjoy the timeless quiet beauty of the countryside just an hour outside the city. No matter which part of China you visit, you never know what you'll find along the way. It talks about how much he loved it. And it's designed for others to see, to have the same experience that he valued so much. If any interest, he liked so many things. We talked about his travel. It was a special thing for him. He went to 27 countries in 28 years, and a lot of remote parts of those countries. Before he left China, he made a list of 30 places in China he wanted to go. For 3.5 years, he went to all of them, actually. A lot of adventures. So this is in a very place a lot of people don't go. So perhaps that last little bit is just classic Michael. So that was in a place called Dunhuang, which very few people know about. I actually went there with him. It's way far west of China on the Silk Road. There's one flight in every day, one flight out. He called us once when he was in China to say he wanted to go to Indonesia, to a place that's very dangerous. The department advised against it. So we discussed it, and she decided to go anyway. And what was there it is. Anyway, so let's get away with the punchline. So instead of finding trouble in Indonesia, he went to a shrine, and he met this couple who was about to get married. And they talked for a little while, and they invited him to their wedding. So they went to their wedding, and the dinner, and the party afterwards. I don't think there was joking. But, it was just sort of a kind of thing that just happened to him on his travels. He sometimes traveled alone. He often traveled with friends, but sometimes by himself. They always came back with pictures of himself. And they were never selfies. He just sort of met people along the way. And people, new friends, and he took pictures of them. There's a few pictures I was just going to show. They also show some of him on the road, and also he was quite a good photographer, and some pictures of things he took. So a lot of those. This was the place actually he was mostly looking to go to in Indonesia. I forget the name of it, but I love it. It's just Michael in the middle of this adventure. That's in Jaipur. He and I went to India. He actually said he had vacation, he wanted to meet somewhere in the middle. So he picked India, which is not all that much in the middle. But it's such a great place. This is at the table where Harry Potter was written. Kind of a landmark for anyone in his age group. That's, looks nice though. And I don't know what that's all about either. That's a little cottage where Mao wrote the Chinese institution. You know, I took a walk up there. Carol didn't go because there was a sign saying, beware wild boars. But we went. This is from the Great Wall. This is, I don't know where. I think it might be Taiwan. I'm not sure. Some pictures of things he saw. Nice to see them. And he said to us at one point, Santorini was his favorite place in the world. Anyway, there it is. I don't know what that is. And high five to Buddha. Anyway, Michael was such a special person. I miss his warmth, I miss his humor, smile, the way he hugged us, his great mind, his adventures. Just a pleasure being with him. And I can't believe we'll never sit down after a long day of skiing or traveling and a good meal when everyone else is at the bar or asleep and play Scrabble, which is what we would do, or play cards. Complicated board there. There were little pleasures, but we love them. So I'd like to close with just sharing one more talent of Michael's. It's a little unusual, and it's one of the sort of endearing things to me. Michael.
Here's my rendition of Happy Birthday.
One of his talents.
Oh, wait, thumbs up.
Anyway, happy birthday, Michael.
So we're running a little behind schedule, and we have 5 more people who are scheduled to speak. And I was thinking maybe what would be something good to do right now is people can stand up, walk around, get something to eat, get something to drink, and we would still hear from 5 people who have
And leave if you want. It's okay.
good perspectives and thoughts about people. So feel free to get up and walk around. And I also want to call up Jesse Lazarus to tell us about Michael. And in China, come on, Jesse, it's fine. Even if people are walking around, we'll all be listening. Yes?
Jesse? Is Jesse here? Jesse's here. And Jesse, I know, talks really fast, don't you? Okay, perfect.
All right, so I am one of the few people here today that knew Michael primarily as Hong Ming, and that's because we actually met in December of 2010 during a Chinese language pledge study abroad program. So that we were under a pledge to only speak Chinese, and even after the pledge ended, actually, I still primarily knew him as Hong Ming, and he knew me as Cheetah, not my actual name Jesse. But I remember first meeting Michael and then getting to know him and then having to talk about his mashups. And then Will, who's here today, who knew Michael much longer than I did. I was telling Will how awesome Michael was because I just got to know Michael better. And then Will said, yeah, you all just found out. I've been waiting for you all to find out. So Michael was one of my closest friends during the program for study abroad in Beijing and Hangzhou. So showing a few fun memories, we actually purchased these shoes that were matching. They were kind of Art Deco hip hop. They were matching but inverted colors. So mine were black with white symbols, his were white with black symbols. And we each switched one shoe. So we were 2 people walking around with mismatched shoes that were cross-coordinated. And then later on, we actually switched the shoes back. And then Will and our other friends in our group got really angry at us. And they said, you didn't ask our permission for that. So walking around in Hangzhou, our Chinese roommates often call us the twins because we were always often seen together. We looked somewhat alike. So as has been mentioned, the main thing that struck me about Michael was this uncanny ability to gain trust from people and to have them open up. I would have friends from college who, or people I was, who were casual friends, but I would all of a sudden see Michael who had just met them recently, and he would essentially, have them open up and let their guard down. So we also, after school, we met up in Boston. We also met up in multiple parts of China. We were in Harbin, and every trip he had planned out fantastically. First thing in Harbin, we saw this temple with lots of famous Jewish immigrants who were there, who founded the post office and all that. He also introduced me to my favorite restaurant that I've shown many family and friends to in China. And then I remember returning to the U.S. in Boston, and we had brunch, and thinking about moving to Boston after grad school because family's there. But the other main reason I was excited to live in Boston was because Michael was in Boston. And the final thing I kind of wanted to go over was that there's one other joy that Michael and I got to share, and that's that in China we had a number of close Chinese friends from our program in Hangzhou in 2011. And going back to China, we then got to experience their own development, including some marriages. Michael saw them in Europe and in China. And so this past week, I sent some of the notes, and they sent me messages. And so a key takeaway, these include Jin Hangqi and Zheng Jiayi and Huang Yan and other friends. And the key takeaway from all of them was that they all sent messages describing the same strong warmth and endearing smile that we all know so well and will always remember.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for your patience. Okay, is Jonathan Cleveland here? Yes, our neighbor who lived across the street before we moved to Brookline. We were across the street neighbors for 27 years. So, watched everyone grow up.
Thanks, core group. We do have a minion here, don't we? I have been fascinated listening to all these wonderful reminiscences from people who, of course, were Carol and Steve, but from contemporaries. But I, being an Aldercock, speak more from a perspective of a parent and how I would view this situation and try to even think about coping with it. Basically, as Carol said, we met in 1991 when we literally became the next door neighbors. Amidst the total chaos of thousands of unpacked boxes, Carol knocked on our door and she presented us with a tin of brownies. With that sweet thought, that's how our friendship began. While we didn't always formally socialize, we were always on the street exchanging ideas, and also we immediately knew these were trustworthy people, so we gave them our spare house keys. A very smart move, because we managed to lose them countless times. And thankfully it was a great opportunity, because as we were trying to get into our house, we would instead go over to see them, knock on the door, and watch them raise this absolutely incredible family. Michael having come first. The only problem was they had at one point a psychotic German Shepherd that was slightly fearful to us, and for which Michael or one of the other children would kindly bring it into the other room. Each of the four kids has a very distinctive and endearing personality. Michael, being the firstborn, was clearly the leader of the pack. He was always incredibly well-mannered, an engaging person, and just a fun guy to be around. We loved going to his bar mitzvah. It was a big deal, and we were honored to be there at now the Lake Michigan Tefillah, which is now a Cohen parking lot. The way it is, right? Never, in all the years that I remember being with Michael, I never saw him get angry. I never saw him be rude. I never saw him be sarcastic. Never, never, not a harsh word about anything. How many people can you say that you know are like that? He's always smiling. He was an unbelievably intelligent kid. And of course, then he had this incredible experience at Pomona. And then, just to top that off, learned the inscrutable language and now writing Chinese. We would love to have him tonight. We are, in his honor, going to a Chinese restaurant, but I can't get past Egg Foo Young. Otherwise, I have no idea what I'm eating. Anyway, then he went and got this incredible job in China. And while he was in China, the last year, I got a call and then an email from him, and he wanted my help. I'm a guy who, unfortunately, who's been frustrated because I've been studying the brain all my life. And after something like this, I think I got an F. Okay? I got an F. I don't really know what's going on here. I can tell you what's there, but I don't know what works. He engaged my professional skills to see if I could help, not him, but one of his friends who had a very, very serious illness, and he felt that he would not be able to get adequate care in China, and we were to begin this process of trying to get him a consultation in the United States. In other words, Michael's first thing was to think about somebody else before himself. I've heard that over and over again today. He gave of himself in a way that always put somebody else's interest ahead of his own. Again, to learn of his passing is simply beyond comprehension. I could not believe this as a parent. It was a knife in the heart. I cannot imagine how you are coping with this. You are doing the best that you can, but I was at first felt this was a sad thing, but you know, after seeing all these slides, this boy lived an incredible life. He was like the person I just read a book about, Neil Armstrong. He already went to the moon, he came back. There really were so many things he already conquered that are so important that most of us can't even dream of doing. And I owe that to both of you who are an inspiration. What a wonderful family unit we have here that really did everything together and managed to get all of these kids on these incredible, incredible paths. That's what I think is the take-home message here. He had an incredible life, and that's how we're going to always remember him. What marvelous experiences he had that most of us will never have. And I'll conclude. The seeming impermanence of life, of course, was summarized in Shakespeare's Macbeth with that famous phrase, "Life's a walking shadow, and the poor player struts and frets upon the stage, and then is heard no more." However, I agree, after seeing this, with a far more profound person, America's greatest songsmith, who happened to be Jewish, Irving Berlin, when his famous song said, "The song is over, but the melody lingers on." You rest in peace, Michael. I'm sure you're going to be very active wherever and whatever time space continuum you're now in. We will never forget you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Mother, grandmother. She's also there. Yeah. All right.
thoughts, memories, love, care, just the feelings in our hearts and memories of the beauty of him as a wonderful, gracious, loving person who has left us gracious memories to help us through the years of life ahead. Thanks for loving memories. Love such beautiful memories to follow.
This is a friend who we brought the bottom line for, we stand if you want.
I don't recall a bottle of wine, but we can just forget about the dinner audience that go about the wine. So I don't have the good fortune of living across the street or next door to the Cohens. We live in Israel. But notwithstanding that, we've managed to, I think, develop a very close relationship with Carol and Steve and with the kids as well. And I just want to relate one anecdote. I know time is short. One anecdote, not in Newton and not in Boston and not in Israel, but I did travel to China about 3.5 years ago. And I was going to be in Beijing for a couple of days, so I reached out to the one person I knew in Beijing, which was Michael. And I just want to use that anecdote to illustrate a few of what I think were some of Michael's personality traits. So first of all, I'd say openness and friendliness. He gets an email from a family friend, but still mainly a friend of the parents. And I'm sure most kids of his age, it's not what they most want to do is hang out with their parents' friends. But he was very, very gracious, and just wrote me this really nice and very detailed email about the things I should do and how I should get to the Great Wall if I want to go. And sure, he'd love to have dinner together. I guess that also illustrates his how considerate he was and how thoughtful. I mean, really just trying to be helpful to me in my first time there. So we had this very nice dinner, and Jordan and I had a chance. We had a great conversation. Told me about what he was doing in China, and had a chance to see his incredible facility with Chinese language, as I know other people have spoken about. But rattled off to the waitress. I didn't know what was on anything that was on the menu. And I'm sure I couldn't eat 3/4 of it, but he was rattling off in Chinese. At least I think he was talking about the menu. I don't know, maybe he was making a date with the waitress, but he certainly sounded very good in Chinese. And obviously that also demonstrates his curiosity, I think. I mean, the fact that he was there for 5 years, his curiosity about other places, other cultures, and we've seen and heard some of that. Great conversationalist, I think. I mean, we had, as I said, we had a really nice dinner talking about his plans, about what he was doing there. Also his connection to Judaism. When he wrote me the email in response, I was going to be there, I think, on Friday, Saturday, and he told me about this Jewish community, sort of informal Jewish community that was meeting for services at the Capitol Club in Beijing, and here's how I could get there, and here's how to go. I ended up not being able to go, but still, he was obviously very connected to the Jewish community there. So that's really what I wanted to share. I mean, it was important for me to be here. Obviously, can't be with Michael, but to be with Andrew, Sarah, David, and Carol and Steve, and we've heard great things about Michael and about the family, which you all know about, and we're all here for you. It's I can't imagine how tough, but we're all here. We will be here. The things you're doing to honor Michael's memory, and to keep that alive, and the good you're doing with it is really commendable and remarkable. So, thanks for the opportunity.
20, I wanted to write something, I didn't know what I would do. So I wrote it as a letter to Michael. Dear Michael, thank you for the fantastic nephew that you were. Thank you for the memories, watching you grow up to be a wonderful person for 20 years. I remember staying with you as a baby when Andrew was born, and seeing your cute, happy face smile at me as I was convinced you thought I might be your mother, since we look so much alike. I remember the smart little boy who could lose himself in a book. I remember you playing chess with my father, who was kind of ill, saying, I wish I would live to see Michael grow up. I remember you being such a sweet brother before David was born, playing crazy stuff with Andrew, so easy and willing to play whatever silly, somewhat non-traditional toys, games Andrew or Sarah would dream up. I remember when you would come over as a teen and talk endlessly about cool tech stuff you could buy at Best Buy. I do remember all 4 of you dancing at our kids' bat mitzvahs, and it was a little contest between who would sweat more, Michael or Andrew. But really, my older kids have this term, goals. You guys were goals, sibling goals. I remember you come to visit one of our kids perform. We went to a Chinese restaurant with our Chinese friends, and you spoke Mandarin to my friend and to the waiter. And we're like, wow, look at the white Jewish guy speaking Mandarin. I was very proud. I remember you coming to an occasional birthday celebration or soccer game when you were at Pomona, and your presence added tremendous fun to these events. When I had Jared, I had a 3rd child later, my own 9-year-old. I remember thinking it would be great if he grew up to be just like you, also goals. I remember taking pictures of the oldest and the youngest cousin, 20 years between you. Julia and Charlotte felt very close to you, so grateful for that. Julia even commented she related to you so much in that you took your time. You weren't in a rush like so many others to figure everything out at once. She appreciated your capacity to engage in deep and insightful conversations that never felt superficial. I remember hearing of your committed involvement in the Hillel and Moishe House, and I was impressed you had developed such a positive, enthusiastic connection to Jewish life. And despite being in China, I found ways to celebrate Jewish holidays with like-minded adults, young adults. As you got older, you matured into someone I truly admired. Someone who put me and everyone you interacted with at ease. Your calm, gentle manner allowed me to speak unencumbered, even though I am so much older. As I could tell, you were so accepting and judgmental, a quality I felt, and everyone has mentioned it defined you. In the last 2 months of your life, we had some very special phone conversations that I will always cherish. You shared your internal struggles with me, and we bonded over the fact that I had faced some mental health issues and understood how these feelings can become magnified and distorted and cause incredible pain. I admitted to you that I have been affected by my own distorted thinking my whole life, and I have made many important decisions based not on what I am capable of, but more on what I can psychologically handle at different life stages. I wanted you to know that you were not alone, and that seemingly successful people like me have struggled as well. I am forever grateful for those conversations. Now that you are not here, when I'm having a bad day, I can imagine working through this stuff with you, laying on the couch with me, challenging our insecurities as a team, like we did on the phone. Your presence in my head and your sweet face so clear in my mind allows me to have this imaginary relationship with you whenever I want. But as I process your death, I feel grateful that you left me a sort of ethical will of sorts. Despite your youth, you handled yourself with such grace and warmth. You were brilliant, interesting, gentle. You remind me to be more patient, to remember I am part of a much bigger world that I should actually try to travel to see and experience firsthand like you did. I will keep these parts of you and our imaginary conversations to help me move forward when I am down. I will not feel alone. You will stay alive in all of us, as the positive mark you made will never fade. As difficult as it is to move forward without your physical presence, I will do my best to put the lessons I have and am still learning from you and your struggle into practice. As your eternally proud aunt, thank you for all you unknowingly gave to me and the rest of our family. I love you, Michael.
All right, I want to say thanks to everyone for sticking it out and being here to hear everyone else speak. The additional speakers just left even more dimensions and thoughts, and just really helpful to us and meaningful to us. So thanks for being here. We're going to be around if you want to come up and talk to us if you have time. And otherwise, we'll connect with all of you after today. Steve, is there anything else you want to say?
Thank you all very much.
Okay. Thank you.